Today's guest, Christian Brown, co-founder and CMO Glewee, an all-in-one influencer marketing platform connecting thousands of brands, pre-vetted creators to run campaigns end-to-end. He started building in the creator space just 16 and has since scaled Glewee into a platform powering campaigns for brands like Volkswagen, Evian, Sony Music, while also shaping the conversation around the creator economy as a Forbes 30 under 30 honoree and contributor. Christian, I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome to Fully Managed.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you started building in this space when you were just 16, before most brands even took influencer serious. So what did you see early on that made you believe this wasn't just a trend, but a fundamental shift in how brands grow?
Yeah, I think okay, instead of it being like something where I was like, oh, this is quite interesting. Instead, it was kind of all I knew. And I think this is even like the early days of social media. So like Facebook, Tumblr, like pre-Instagram into like the earliest days of it. Like long form video on YouTube had just really caught on. And so like my experience online and media was all through creators and influencers before even the term was really coined and scaled. And so I think where I kind of came to the equation as like a teenager was like, wow, there's so much going on online. Like I'm so inspired by this. And I was just inspired by everyone else who went on to become all these big. And so looking at it and saying like, okay, what brands are working? People are like, how are these creators, influencers actually like making money and partnering with brands? It was all so new, right? So being able to see it from like, my initial period online to following it over the last 12 years and seeing the industry itself expand, like it kind of is at a very early phase like all I knew, and then from there like building on social media, building in like that e-commerce world, it exploded, social media and the technology over the last
And when was this? What year?
12 years ago. Yeah, 2014, like when I was a sophomore in high school was when I really started like going all in on that. So yeah, a little bit ago.
Crazy how much everything has changed in just 12 years.
Yeah, I mean, like TikTok did not exist, ByteDance didn't exist, Snapchat didn't exist. Like Instagram was I still have like, Instagram photos from 15 years ago on my profile. And like they are teeny tiny, 1080 by 1080. There's like a border frame around it. There's a crazy filter on it. Like just to think of how far we've come from an iPhone 4 and like the worst camera on a phone in humankind into like, what we can do in short form video and how attention spans as humanity have depleted, right? Just like, and that's from a micro perspective as well. Just the world that have come out. Yeah, the whole world has changed forever in a way that I find to be great.
It's crazy. I also remember the first time my best friend mentioned Instagram. It was like 2012, and I remember we were at the just like snapped a picture and she instantly uploaded it, and I was like, "What's that?" And she was like, "Oh, it's Instagram," and it was like very filter crazy. I remember back then, and it's insane how much it has said.
Yeah, think about the way that we communicate with one another, and with Facebook and Meta owning Instagram and integrating Messenger, and it's really interesting to see, right? Because people used to communicate in these silos, right? People used to write letters to in the digital age, email, and then came like, are we writing letters or are we emailing, right? And then came Facebook, so introduced social media, and then Messenger on AOL, AIM, and Facebook. And then comes WhatsApp, which then comes into the Meta equation a little later on. But just the idea of like, Instagram used to just be for like photos, and now people solely communicate through the Messenger app or Instagram DMs or WhatsApp, right? And so all those are owned by Meta. So like that exists in realm. And then TikTok lives over here. Snapchat for a Gen Z or younger audience lives over here, right? So there's all these different worlds that exist on social media, and they all exist for like communication of thought. And that's what's happening at rapid speeds, every second of every day, ever.
Wow. And like Glewee went from like sticky notes to powering campaigns for brands like Volkswagen, Sony. Like what's something that worked in those early days that completely broke?
Yeah, I think I think we have to break it down like influencer marketing as it stands, right? Like what we wanted to go out and address was a double side, right? So influencers and content creators want more deals, right? So they want an deal flow. So they needed a way to do that, right? So our iOS acts as that deal board where they can do everything from like contracts and communications and negotiations, submitting content for review and approval. It all happens through the iOS app. But on the web platform, what we really started to build was a place that housed the full workflow. So like breaking it all the way down. Think about it from a brand or a business. It breaks up into a couple. There's your search and discovery. So like how are you finding once you found them, communication. So where are you communicating? Like we just mentioned, is it on email, DM? Is it through a platform, right? So we wanted to, once you're actually want to hire them, how are you actually doing the legal and from the contracting, right? How is the money funds flowing, right, to actually hire that influencer? And then you have to ship them the product, right? So then there's the content review, feedback, approval phase. So where is that all housed from like a content perspective? Now, once that content's approved, right, and it goes live from the media side, how are you actually able to and where that link lives and track that data in real time? And then how are we going to pay out the influencer, right? So the payment rails. And then following February is going to be tax season, right? So how are we going to manage that? Is it a 1099? Like how are we going to do it, right? So those are the components that go into, and what we set out to do in the very beginning was to build that all in, right? So Glewee acts as that inter-powered growth engine as a platform the brands come into and operate the full workflow and the iOS app. So like from day one onwards, right? When we think about like the initial idea and from like that, right? It was the workflow, right? It was understanding from a brand and influencer perspective, what goes into an influencer collaboration, right? And then take it back a step. What is that work? Take it back one step. Who does what part of what work? Take it back a step and say, okay, is this natural for them to do? And then all the way back and say, how are we going to design this? So, right, like thinking about it where it stands now, that's what happens all day, every day on the platform, is that workflow is done over and over again, right? And then through everything we do, we make it easier and faster and partners. And then also, filling the funnel with like users. And then so that's like kind of what we've done.
So cool. And you have built a network of pre-vetted I'm curious, what does good actually mean to you when evaluating a creator beyond metrics like reach or engagement?
Yeah, so I think like this is a really fun one because this has changed over time, right? Because we brought the platform to market about 4 years ago. And that has changed drastically. With the introduction of TikTok Shop, also came the competitive landscape with Amazon, right? So now we have a whole new world of like nano micro influencers that are operating off like a new metric, which is called. So as time has progressed, new metrics have come into the equation at what we can look at from a quantitative perspective on what is right. And so years ago, it was just follower count, engagement rate, brand right. We also looked at suitability for work, past brand deal experience, etc. But that's kind of on like the general quantity. When we think about qualitative, we also need to take into consideration what content have they made for other brands, right? So have they had any brand deals, right? Do they look to us like they're ready for us to pitch to them? Obviously, the suitability for work is an important one, brand guidelines, etc. But yeah, we look at a plethora of factors when admitting someone to the Glewee platform. We've had a lot of 10,000 plus influencers apply that just don't meet all the criteria. And, we have to balance that.
And Glewee, I'm sorry, is it Glewee or Glewee?
Yeah, Glewee.
Glewee. So Glewee makes influencer marketing faster and more structured, as mentioned. But how do you scale efficiency without accidentally stripping away the authenticity that made creator marketing work in the first?
Yeah, I think like from the scale perspective, like the brand side, it's all about optimizations to the work, right? So like, let's say you want to hire 50 different. How do we as a firm allow you as a marketing manager or maybe a founder, how do we allow you to identify, communicate with them very extremely fast, and then also hire them and move on in that workflow? I think ease of use and optimization platform. So as you launch, like maybe you're saying, hey, I want female creators on the West Coast, fitness, everyone that qualifies based on age, gender, follower, etc., gets notification to their phone, and we have in 50 seconds. So right, there's that speed element. So now within a day, you can have 50 to 150 influencers. So now from our side, right, as those that are building our partner brands, how do we make it easy to suggest to you the top based on experience, success, quantitative data filtration, then actually deploying that recommendation engine? A lot of that is, what goes, whether it's in there now or in a roadmap to it, that's going to allow for like scale from the user side without having to like.
You have written a lot about the creator economy from a Gen perspective. I'm curious what something brands still fundamentally misunderstand about how younger audience decide what's worth their attention.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's like brands are, especially newer brands, like newer brands and legacy brands that want to enter the market, they kind of both have some of this hiccups. And it kind of goes down to like their inability to throw stuff at the wall. And I think a lot of times your biggest brands, all the way to like your brands that are like just jumping into the game, they're very uptight about like, oh, the influencer's audience, right? And the data needs to be perfect and it needs to, and it's like, yes, but at the same time, like we do need to work with a large variety that are making a lot of with different styles and different hooks. It needs to look and feel authentic and organic, and it needs to actually make sense, right? Like we don't need the influencer's audience to be 80 in Milwaukee, right? You might want that, but like at the end of the day, the video is going to be great regardless if it's a collaboration. So if you do that at scale, you have more opportunities for great content to be deployed to social. And like we always say, the best thing you can do with the content is repurpose it across your social, add it to the .com level, so your website conversion rate, and then also deploy it in your ad library to turn the revenue. And like some brands, they just want to spend the big dollars and work with the big industry and hope that it works, right? But like at the end of the day, that that might be safe from a brand perspective, right? It's gonna definitely work and like look good in a pitch deck. But is it going to get everyone's attention? No, it's not going to work. So I think like from our perspective, where we look at like the Gen Z approach is like work with the big array of creators, work with 10, grow your brand, like actually show real people that look, walk, and talk like your ICP using your product. Get them out as collab posts on Instagram. Like when someone goes to your page, whether it's through an ad or through a post, whether it's your post or their post, like they should feel a connection to something on them, right? They want to follow a brand that they actually are like, yeah, they made that content for me, right? Like this looks like something I would like, or my friends would like, or I want to share this with someone in my network. If you miss those first like 3 to 10 seconds, you've lost someone forever until you've invested to get their attention. Harder to get someone's attention a second.
Oh my God, absolutely. A very great way of putting it. And you like have access to so much performance data. I'm curious, what's a decision you'd still make based on instinct, even if the data's otherwise?
Yeah, like, shooting from the hip and like making a decision, like a data-driven decision is great, but like a vibe decision is also fantastic because we're in an industry that is evolving by the second, right? Because when they were building new AI models yesterday that are deployed today, that will be tomorrow, they were not thinking about the data. They were thinking, right? Like, and that's just the nature of how technology is. So I think for us, the influencer selection is definitely something that we say sometimes like, hey, look, we're going to spend $250 per post with influencer. Why don't we throw like, these 3 other people into the camp? Because there's always a chance that like their content style might work really well. Like look at the content they made for other brands. It might not be exactly what you're looking for, but there's a high probability it's close, right? And when we need 10, 20, 50 videos for an ad library to drive performance metrics, why not try something, right? Why not throw an outlier into the data set and just, because not everything's a normal distribution or like a hockey stick, right? We need to see what's working and it needs to come from different angles. So like we vibe check sometimes and we're like, yeah, this would be great, right? We run it by the partners and the clients and everything. And then they give us thumbs up. They're like, yeah, it sounds awesome. We trust you. And then sometimes like those videos are the ones that like outperform everything that the data says should work best, right? Just because like the algorithms are, yes, they're data driven, but like they're built on vibes and emotions.
And in a world where everything can be measured, I'm curious, what do you still believe can't be captured by data when it comes to creator?
I think authenticity and the ability for a creator to be a good fit. I think that's so important, right? Because like someone that might perform really well and have a great workout fitness, we might not know from like day one that like they also have, a family and make this like amazing, fun family content background. And maybe they've always wanted to make family content. They just didn't know how, right? So when a family or like an at-home brand approaches them, maybe they're like, oh my goodness, it's exactly what I've wanted, right? This is authentic to me because like I've been waiting to make content like this. And then out of nowhere, you see this new segment of content from them like flourish, right? And the brand's like, oh my gosh, this is great. We just got to tap into 100,000 fitness followers that actually all have family. And so like you're able to uncover a lot through just like genuinity. And like I think for us, because we have so many creators, like, right, we're able to really, let's say that we have a new health and wellness brand, right? And we know what type of influencer they're looking for. We can send out that can brief to thousands of influencers. And like I mentioned, within a day, we have hundreds of influencers reaching out and applying to the platform because they want to work with the brand. And it's like, we get to look and say, like, yeah, the data will show that these are the best fit from a data perspective. But we also get to look at the content and say, like, no, we really believe these creators are going to do great. So we build the influence based on that. And, it's really about like, how excited is he, right? Like, is the product going to benefit their life? Like, are they going to talk about the product off camera, right? Are they going to make content about the partnership that we're building in the brand influencer? Are they going to make additional content and like be a true ambassador for that brand over time? That's the goal. So when we can see that down the line ahead of time, that's a great partner. And like, when we can introduce our brand and those influencers and build these relationships, then everyone wins. And that's what we're really focused on.
It's a powerful take. And you have been building in public in a way since your okay days in high school.
Yeah.
Like, how has your relationship with building and ambition changed as stakes got bigger?
I don't think it changed at all, really. Like, I think at the end of the day, self-determinism is like one of the greatest things of the, right? Like, we built the New York City window. We built the city, right? We built everything Peter worked on was built by like people ever and the most creative intellect. So it's like, when I think about it, I always wanted to build great things, right? From like my original brand to like social media presence and company, a part of like the startup team at Glewee and all the brands that we work with. I think every day you got to get up and you got to want it, right? And you have to know if you're not going to do it, right? Someone else somewhere is. So like, why not go do it?
Yeah.
And I think like, you have to lead a good team by example. And you have to, be that beacon of light to show others out there, like, hey, right? Like, I think the most precious thing we have is time. So how are you going to spend it in the smartest way possible? And I think working, there's a stat that says you work 70 an adult, right? Like, you want to, but like, you want to love what you, right? So like, doing something you're passionate about, doing something fun and creative, doing something that's challenging, needing to generate and hit your KPI numbers. Like, to me, that's all really setting goals, blowing through them, like, that's what keeps me up at night. I think like the hardest part of this is like to bed, because I just like, I feel like a kid on Christmas, right? I'm like, every day I'm like, yes, I get to go do that thing, and like, oh yeah, I get to go build this deck and like go present it tomorrow. Like, I love this. So like, to me, this is my passion and my joy, and like all my friends, like everyone around me is like, oh, there he goes, gotta go work. Like, oh, it's just part of me. And I think that it's fun, and it's something that I've been able to carry through like my original company that I started in high school, all the way through like all the different brands we were running through college, into Glewee, and building the team and everything out there. Like, this all is one big reflection of what it once started as. And I think it all tells one big story, right? And I think when I like think about it and kind of like sew it all together, I started a brand which allowed me to use digital and marketing to actually generate like revenue for the brand, and build a company that sustained me for like multiple years of my life. And then through that, I met a network, the crews that I know now. And I then went on that era to then go build Glewee with my business partner, Dylan, who I met through that era. So had it not been, me years old on Tumblr being like, oh my gosh, I love brands, I want to build one of these one day, right? I would have never taken all those stepping stone steps all the way to where I'm at now. So I think it all is one big, like, rather than it be like different chapters, it's all one start to blended together experience.
I love that take. You've been building so intentionally since day one, truly. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. I don't think at day one you never know it, right?
Definitely.
Like, especially not when I was like way younger. I definitely would, if I could go back, I didn't like see my younger self. I'd say like, just keep building, keep going crazy, have fun. Like I wouldn't have single thing thus far. So I think that it's like, that's, I'm really grateful. I get so hyped up.
That's so cool. I can literally feel your passion, and that's so cool that you get to, work on something that makes you invoke such positive and emotions on you.
Yeah, thanks.
And do you think there's something brands doing in influencer marketing that feels outdated, but no one's really questioning it yet?
Outdated. No, I think that like, not really in influencer marketing, because I think it's so new that only brands that are like hip to it are investing, right? Like it's only brands that want to go social first, want to touch the end consumer in just a different format on social. Like brands that really understand how they want to scale or reach an audience are the ones in influencer marketing. But at like the greater marketing level as a whole, I think that a lot of times, like what blows my mind is when I look at a paid ad or a performance ad library and it's just like static, right? And I'll talk to like the ad agency running it or the company running it. I'm like, what are you doing here? You're just running statics and like 30 of them and you haven't refreshed them. I'm like, whoa. All of paid ad libraries, right? Whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Google with YouTube, everyone is looking for short form content right now. Yeah. Short form video is what's driving actual conversions, right? It's what stops the scroll. It's what drives the click to the .com level. And over time, retargeting from content is driving sales, which generates revenue. So I'm like, why are you not doing this? And a lot of times they'll say like, just don't know how. And then that's when I like hit the brakes as hard as I can. Whoa, okay. Oh boy, do I have a solution. Glewee is an influencer-powered growth engine that does, right? But like, yeah, brands that are not social first, though they're investing heavily in social as like an engine, I'm like, why not? Like, why don't you have short-form content or work with influencers or have a creator team? A lot of times they just don't understand how. And that's where Glewee comes in as that solution.
It's very cool. And you started building in this space so young. I mean, do you think that gave you an advantage in how you see culture and creators today? Or did you have to like unlearn things as you scale?
No, because I think everything we've done is so new, right? There's no playbook for this, right? There was no playbook to building. Like there was no how to. So I think really what it was is like, we think that this is how brands and creators together, right? And we know that this is what creators want because like we are so close to influencers. Everyone we know is an influencer. So like we can survey from our close friends. And then on the brand side, it's like, well, we've built brands and we know a lot of some questions there. So instead of unlearning, it was more figuring out like, are these hypotheses and do enough people want to invest in hypotheses that we have a business with viability? And I think that that's what we set forth. So I think like to answer your question, yeah, being in this space for so long, I see us as definite thought leaders, right? When a brand comes to us, they're like, we have this idea. I can work that backwards in 4 seconds and be like, okay, so we want this content style with like many hooks. We want to work with this ideal creator profile. And here's some sampling we can work with. And here's some of content. And then let me go build an analysis of like 6 brands in the space. And then let me go look at the ad libraries to understand what they're doing, to see where competitors are doing you in the interspace. And like within 20 minutes, right? Like we can understand how that idea that the brand has will work in a social first. But I think back in the day, that probably took a while. I don't know. I wasn't there back in the day. But like, I imagine that a social strategy 10 years ago might have been a little more together, whereas now the tools are readily available and we built them.
Oh, it's crazy to see that you're giving me sort of a scope into how all of this works. You know, I'm scrolling through social media and I see like a campaign of an influencer and you don't know all that is coming before, you know, this. So it's so cool that you are explaining all this to me. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your perspective, especially given how early you've been in this space and in it. So thank you so much for coming on. It has been a really interesting conversation, and I'm so excited to see everything you keep building with Glewee.
Thank you so much. And every time you open Instagram or TikTok, right, just look for the paid partnership tag. They're all over the place. Or look for #ad, or just see who's tagging what brands. And when you find those, just think to yourself, exactly like you just mentioned, there's a lot that goes on behind to get that piece of content in your, and that is the end final product of what we create in the marketing industry. And like, it is everywhere. It is dominating right now. It's everywhere. So it's so cool to see. And it's not just from us, right? Like this is happening all over the world globally at every minute of every day. And it's just going to be so fun to see where this industry and where short form content and the introduction of AI content into this, and the algorithm shifts, changes, and new platforms that'll come to this space. Like it is all happening so fast right in front of our eyes. So fun.
I love it. I love that perspective. It is exciting. It's definitely very exciting to see where it's all leading to.
Yes.
Oh my God, that was so cool. I really, oh my God, you know, teach me things, and this has definitely taught me a lot. So thank you for taking the time.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend and, of course, subscribe.